Hey, this is LizJSimpson, and welcome back to the Women Consulting Corporate Podcast. Today, we are going to have a real conversation. You know, we often talk about women securing the bag, landing 5, 6, 7-figure corporate contracts. But the truth of the matter is that when you lead a business, life is always happening in the background. So today, we're going to talk about how you thrive in the midst of life's storms, if you will. Over the past few years that we've been coaching women entrepreneurs to land corporate clients, these very women have often been navigating loss of relationships, loss of loved ones, transitions, divorce, separation, bereavement, becoming caretakers for their parents. You know, the list goes on. And so today I'm excited because we have a special guest who we're just going to have a candid conversation about how we still lead businesses while life is happening. I am accompanied by my co-host, our sales and client success coach at Stimulus, Cheryl Parks. And our special guest today is none other than Ashley Walden Davis, who is the founder and executive director of Unlock Creative, a social enterprise. Hey, ladies.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me today.
It's an honor. It's so special, you know, working with you throughout this time. I've only seen you on Zoom screens. So just to see you when you walked in today and I got a chance to hug you, like, it's just, I know Cheryl agrees. Like, we yes. care about you all so much. So it means so much to just be here and live in color with you. So I've been holding back. Like, you've been here and I've been trying not to talk to you so we could save it for this podcast episode. So I want to hear from you, Ashley. Like, what's going on? What's top of mind for you?
Well, I want to tell you a little bit about Unlock Creative Enterprises. Let's go. So Unlock Creative Enterprises is actually 3 entities.
Okay.
Unlock Creative Coaching and Management Solutions, which is a consulting firm. Unlock Creative Foundation, which is a nonprofit where we support Black and Brown businesses with our services for free and subsidized. And then the National Black Woman Creative Cooperative, which is a mutually owned cooperative for Black women where we share in the profits together.
That's incredible. I have so many questions about that. One, how did this come to be? Like, because not everyone's thinking about having 3 divisions, how you're subsidizing it to support the community. So tell me more about how that came to be.
Well, my background is in arts and social justice. So that is my heart. So in 2020, during the pandemic, while we were all in the pandemic and at the height of the George Floyd uprisings, I decided to step away from my formal career. I started homeschooling and I decided that I wanted to leverage all of my talent for my community, which was Black and Brown creatives.
Yeah. And then so because of your background, is that how you had the idea or the acumen to build an enterprise? Most people aren't thinking like, I'm going to build a social enterprise and it's going to have 3 legs to it. Like, where did that come from?
Okay, I say the consulting firm feeds the baby. That's what I always said. The consulting firm feeds the baby. So I always had freelance on the side.
Yeah.
And for anyone listening, the first contract officially through the business was only $13,000. But I said this $13,000.
Girl, we ain't gonna say only, because listen, I'm gonna tell you right now, listen, it ain't just only 13,000. It might, for the 12%, it might be only, but for the rest of these folks, and I'm like.
So it was $13,000. And I said, okay, this either 3 months or 6 months if we stretch it.
Yeah.
This is what it's going to be. And we quickly turned it around. But yes, through the work that I had been doing and learning, I was learning about cooperatives and I worked in the nonprofit sector. So I never actually have worked in the corporate sector. It is my background. So that's a little bit why I was thinking in the way that I was. And having a social enterprise is important to me because I'm not just interested in profits. I'm interested in what is the community impact and change. And I found this out actually about myself. You know, they say you learn about yourself in your 30s. I found this out about myself because when I reflected on my life, so for graduate school, I got into Yale, but I chose this school called CalArts, California Institute of the Arts. When I was entering my career and I had an opportunity to work for Disney, I chose to work for this community-based theater, Cornerstone Theater Company. So I realized that throughout my career, when I reflected, the choices that I always made was not around necessarily making a large impact. It was about taking care of myself, but also about what was I going to give back to the community. So when I finally birthed something of my own, it had to have a community impact and feed the baby.
Yes. I so respect and appreciate that about you. Oh my gosh. Okay. And I want to correct. You said it's not about impact. I think it is very much so about impact for you. I don't think it's prestige. Like, it's not about like prestige and how it appears to other people, because I just want to give you your flowers. I think impact is 100% at the heart of what you do and how you build community. So tell me, so you're building this business, and I'm still kind of stuck on you mentioning the George Floyd, because that definitely was a turning point for me as well, and how I approached my work. So you've built this social enterprise. How did we come on your radar? So we were the big money movement at the time, right? So tell me more about how we came on your radar and how we ended up being a part of your journey.
Well, number one, you all are an answer to a prayer. So as I said, I come from the nonprofit industry and I'm trained as a theater producer. So my background has always been in the arts and culture nonprofit sector. And I've done a lot of programs. I know a lot about that world. But what I did not know is how to be a businesswoman. So I prayed, researched, looked for, I need a business coach. And actually, I love your team and your model. Y'all, Liz do her own model. This is the thing. What she teach you, she does. So the team found me on LinkedIn and I applied and I was like, this is it. And then we had a introduction session or some, you know, some type of workshop. And I went to it and I was like, oh, they accepted me. And then I got invited to do it. I was like, oh, they accepted me. Honestly, like, for real, this was so exciting. And the honor, honestly, like, because it means more than when I got into Yale. That is something that meant a lot to me. It's something that I wanted from I was 11. Like, I had planned my life for that. And this program is exactly what I needed at this time. And with everything that I've been going through, this program has saved my life, had me have sanity, not lose myself, and not lose my business. So it's what I wanted, but it's so much more. I didn't just get a coach. I got a whole community of coaches and a whole community of women who were trying to build thriving businesses.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. We gonna dive in then. We're gonna dive in. Okay. All right. Let's talk about this then. So, you're in the program. Do you want to share more about, you don't have to share details of exactly what happened, but just kind of give us a landscape of like, you're leading the business and kind of just this journey and adventure of what's happening in the business, but then what's happening in life.
Well, I definitely believe 2020 is a turning point, a new decade, that it really is a time when things were shifting for me. During this 2-year period, my mother retired due to illness. I lost my best friend and biggest client, business partner. I forgot about that. And my husband. But I will say all of these were a correction for the person that I'm becoming. And this program and all the relationships that I have now are nutritious in supporting the person I am today. So that is the landscape. So I think it's grief. I think grief is the overall theme, but still joy in it. But that's the landscape in which I've been building the business, is this underlying grief. But you talk about in the program, you have to be losing those things though. To become who you are. Yeah.
You're grieving. It's interesting because for me, I've always felt like I'm shedding identities and I'm evolving. And as I evolve and I change, the landscape of my relationships change, right? And so there's some who have grown with me, and there's some that our seasons have shifted, and I don't know if those seasons will return. But it also, I've had, and I'm curious for you all, Cheryl and Ashley, how you view this. I sometimes have like this, I don't know if it's love-hate relationship, but it's sometimes that the nature of that will cause me to shrink in seasons. And I'll have a season and I'll realize that the reason I haven't leapt to the next season is because it's like, I don't want my environment to change again, right? And I'm trying to make sure that I'm palatable for the people around me, because it's like, well, if I make this next leap and I achieve this thing, will these people be able to go with me? And it's also sometimes exhausting feeling like I'm reintroducing myself to people. And it's sometimes felt like the people who know you the longest are the people where it's the hardest for them to embrace who you are, right? Because new people are like, oh, I've met you today. This is who you are. But people are like, but they're like latched on to who you were in like 1992. And I'm like, listen, it's been 5 versions of her since, right? And so that's been a hard piece for me. Cheryl, for you, do you feel like shedding relationships has been a part of your journey?
Absolutely. And I think that when you first start, you aren't doing it intentionally, right? Mm-hmm. You just realize that this conversation's different. I'm really not as interested as I used to be.
Yes.
I don't want to spend that amount of time in this space anymore. And then as you go forward, you become very intentional about, okay, I'm going to allow this in, but this is still not where I'm supposed to be. And then you start marching forward. And I think it's the intentionality of it and knowing where you are, what season you're in, kind of assessing, and just knowing that, okay, it's okay. It's okay. The discomfort's okay. And it's okay that you're growing. And it's okay that you don't want to spend time with the same people. But it's hard. Like even talking about it, it's hard. It's hard to know that when you have loved ones that you've spent decades with.
So it's been like a 7-year evolution. So I'm trying to think of like how it was in the beginning to how it is now. Like now for me, I am so like unapologetically committed to the woman I'm becoming. Like it's so, I don't care how it sounds. Like I'm so committed to my fullest self-expression. Like I see it as like everything in me I want to come out. Like when my time is done on earth, I want people to be like, whatever potential there was, she gave it a go. Like I'm not trying to have none of this potential die with me. You know what I mean? And so like, I'm so unapologetically committed to that's my North Star. And I just trust that whoever's meant for me is going to love me and embrace that. And we'll grow together and we'll find, and maybe like we won't be, on the same trajectory at the same time, but we can like find commonalities, and maybe they're focused on one thing when I'm not, and we grow each other. And if things shed, I'm just trusting that they're meant to shed. But in the beginning, that was hard because when I was first building my business, it was scary and I didn't trust myself and I needed validation and I needed affirmation and I thought I did. And I thought I needed support. And so then you look to the people that you generally go to support for. And I realized, oh, this support system can't support me in this arena right now. And then at first it was a resentment. Because like, why aren't y'all like, this shit is hard. Like, why aren't y'all here for me the way that I need you? And then I realized that it wasn't necessarily malice, but most people don't know how to support an entrepreneur. And it's a lot of people doing crazy things. So some people are like, okay, that little cute idea that you're risking your life for, like your livelihood for. And then I just realized that like, for me, it became be less concerned about support from people around you and be more focused on what the market needs from you. And then I learned eventually by focusing on my ideal buyer, I built community in my market. And then my loved ones saw that little cute business was actually building something. And then they were like, what is that? Like, I still have people to the day who are like, all right, Liz, okay, now like, explain to me what your business is, because like it's something. But it was like this evolution. For you, Ashely, like what has that felt like for you? Like what has been like the emotional cycle of navigating these transitions?
I have to go back and say, you built the thing you didn't have.
Yeah.
And I'm benefiting from that community. So I sought the support system, and the 12% now is the support system that I needed to go to that next place. So that's exactly how I found you, because I knew I didn't have it. Mm-hmm. And through therapy and all those other things, I found out that it wasn't on them, but I went out and sought it. So the emotional journey this year, it's been all the emotions. I had all the emotions. I have the emotions wheel for my son, but I have the emotions wheel. Am I embarrassed, excited, sad, angry, elated, scared? So the entire emotions wheel. I've been on the entire emotions wheel. Probably monthly. Like every month I'm on the whole emotions wheel. But I will say joy is what I grab onto. Oh. And that is one of the most core values in my business and myself. And it's in this program. That's also why I like love it. It's like, oh yeah, and it's challenging. And then you help us and get us back and be like, okay, yes. So those are like all my emotions. And if you can't tell through the podcast, I have lots of emotions and lots of feelings, and I like to express them. Yes. And I'm pretty animated about them.
I love it. We all have all the emotions. So I'm just glad that you're honest about it, because that's normal. So in addition, I'd be curious of another aspect to talk about. So I've had relationships that I've shed naturally or that have just transitioned, right, to a different spectrum because of my lifestyle and my business journey. But I've also had to navigate, one of my best friends, I don't know if I should say died or killed. She was walking her dog in a, okay, all right, we talking about this. So she was walking her dog and a car veered onto the sidewalk and killed her instantly. That was in the midst of a major launch. And it was crazy because Kelly, there's also just grace in the timing of it, in that Kelly had been on the team for like 2 months, like 2-3 months. I just like hired her. And it also was kind of like probably one of the craziest onboarding, because she came on, she was on for a few months. We were in the midst of a major launch. And it was that and something else that happened that I'm just not ready to talk about publicly. But I also had something else that I was grieving as a woman. And so I had 2 major life situations happen in the midst of the launch. And you've been in the program. Like, my position in my program is I'm transparent, but at the same time, it's like, I'm going to give y'all what y'all paid for. So like, I'm going to be navigating life in the background, but that will never interrupt program delivery. And so for me, that was a really difficult time. And it was just grace of God. And for me, a lot of therapy. And thankfully, I had a team to support me. But that's one of many physical losses, I've had while I've been leading a business, and still like having to be, I don't want to say having to be, because I think it's unhealthy to say having to be happy-go-lucky Liz, but like having to make sure the business still has continuity, having to make sure that there's like continuity in the business while I'm navigating like these losses. So I don't know if you all have experiences of like physical loss or like health or illness. It's like, all right, there's some things you embrace because I'm changing, but there's also things I can't control because life is literally happening, and how you navigate that.
Yeah. I think illness, whether it's parents or spouse or best friend or child. I mean, again, we started in the middle of COVID, right? So there we go, just to begin the conversation, and the George Floyd murder. I mean, those are riveting. Both of those are it changed the way we look at the world, period. And we'll never go back. And I think that it's just the awareness. And I really like the phrase you used, nutritious relationships. I was like, wait a minute.
That's a word. That's a word.
That part. It's so important to get your nutrition and to know where it's coming from, and not I used to think pay attention to people that pay attention to you. I think you have to gravitate more toward nutritious relationships because junk food can pay attention to you. You know? Yeah. So, yeah. But I think that it's true. We have to just be really aware. And Liz and I were talking earlier about this whole thing is about being a better human.
Yes.
It really is. It's elevating yourself as a human and then understanding the art and science of the things that you need to do in business and sales and marketing and creativity, you know, in community, all of those things.
One thing that you said, and you are totally like my hashtag goals, Liz. That's why when I came in, I'm like, yes, I'm scared to talk to Liz, y'all. So today I'm being brave. But how you approach your business is very much my style. And my friends and my colleagues will know. So they are very deep because I'm from social just. They're very deep. They're in like, are you honoring your emotions, Ashley? And I'm like, I am. And these clients need this product and this is what they paid for and we're giving it to them. And I'm not honoring myself because I have a team and a place for that. But the place for that is not on my client calls or my creative flower programming. If we're delivering content, I don't think that's the place. And that's one thing I do admire about you. And authenticity is one of my core values. So I want to show up and acknowledge it. Yes, y'all, I'm grieving. Mind my heart. I might have to go off camera, but then we get to work and the work motivates me. That's the part I love what I do. So I don't want to not do what I do when I'm grieving. I want to do what I want to do while life is lifing. But to be surrounded by nutritious relationships and clients that will understand I'm being a human being today. My other teammate has to tap in because I have to go deal with my life. But I definitely will be back and we are thinking about you and what we said we were going to owe to you. And we're going to do a great job. So balancing both of those things, because I always say, yes, I do things that other people do. I do strategic plans. I do executive searches, but we honor humans. Humans do this work. And sometimes humans just need to cry.
Right.
That's what like the meeting need to be. So then we can go do the work. So I want to offer myself that same grace that I'm offering to my clients and my business. So if you go to our website, unlockcreative.org, you will see, you will see we honor like process and work product. Like those things can exist at the same time and the humans. So I just wanted that point to me is like very important that honor ourselves, but we still do honor our work. And in the big money movement, 12%, people have quality work. So we want to honor that.
And you have to. Like, I think it's such a disservice to not honor the human, right? I love the phrase that motion is in the word emotion. Emotions have to move through you. And I think when you don't honor those emotions, that's when you create like plagues in the body and illness. And like, you keep ignoring your emotions if you want to. They're going to find a way to get your attention in other ways. And I think some of the challenges we have are because we're numbing to emotions. We're not creating time for them instead of honoring, this is how I feel in this season, right? And how can I hear what that story, what that narrative is and face it head on? And I think there's a balance. I think that's why it's important to have team. So I love that you said team, right? Because this is something very difficult for someone who doesn't have support in their business. And then if that's you, then you have to build a business that gives you space for life. I think it's, to me, the point of the matter is, life is going to happen.
Yes.
Like, don't be a fool. Something's going to happen and you don't know when it's going to happen. And I guarantee it's going to happen at the most inconvenient time. Like, just trust that it's coming. So then how do you build a business that gives you space and grace for when life happens? For some, it's a team. For others who might not be there yet, it's like, well, what type of other infrastructure can I have in place? Are there certain things automated? Am I managing expectations appropriately with clients? Am I building authentic relationships? And I know everyone has different levels of like what they're willing to communicate. For me, I'm okay. Like, authenticity is important to me. Transparency is important to me. But I'm also big on, if I haven't processed something, I'm not going to do my therapy on you. So if I talk about something, it's because I've already done the work. Emotions are probably going to show up because I'm a human being, but I've at least processed it. So that's why I'm like, all right, one of my best friends was killed. That's processed. I can talk about that. Something else happened. I'm not going to talk about that yet because that ain't processed, right? Like when it's processed, I'll do that. But I do think it's just like knowing and giving your space for situations so that you can process them.
Can I jump in and
Of
say,
course.
For one of the tips I would give the quote unquote solo entrepreneur is maybe you don't want to build a full team, but how about partnering with another consultant that does similar work? So part of me building out my team after the loss of my business partner was partnering with 2 other consultants to kind of be like on deck if something would happen. So they're abreast on the project. They're not primarily carrying the load, but should something happen and I needed to be out, they can pick it up. But I also introduce them to the client. So the client mostly sees me, but it's like, hi, this is my teammate who's also on the team, copied on the emails. So if I should never not be able to come, they step right in and the continuity is there. So I just want to offer that because I do know folks can get stuck there. And that's like a very simple fix that can just relieve your anxiety to know I got a backup.
Yes. We call it a bench. I love it. Yeah. It's like building a bench, right? So you have a bench of other professionals or experts that can tap in like, all right, I'm about to take 15. It's time for you to come off the bench and get in the game. You know what I mean? So I do love that you shared that. It's another topic I have to talk about with you on here because it's one that we brag about you all the time. So now that we have you, you're like, all right, how much detail is she willing to share? So from my perspective, you came in the program and there was a client relationship that was not nutritious. It wasn't. That wasn't nutritious for the business at the time. I won't say for you. And you had to make what for some could have been a very difficult decision. I won't speak for you or project how it was for you. And I feel like that decision, one, is just such what is the word? A lesson for others. So I don't know if you're willing to tell this story, if you're able to tell this story. Okay. I'm always conscientious of like when clients are involved, like I want to make sure we can talk about things.
Well, what I want to say also is the 4 relationships that I shared were all the same relationship, just showing up in my life every time.
Oh, girl.
That's why I can talk about it.
Oh, girl. Yeah.
Wow. So the client relationship was just the best friend relationship, just the other. It was the same relationship. So it also, I'll say, started me to reflect on myself. I'm not someone that's just going to show up. How am I in this same relationship 4 times?
Oh, I wish I could remember it. Oh my gosh. One of my favorite messages from TD Jakes. I think it's doing the work. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry if I'm misquoting this. But the point of the message is he talks about how, if you're someone spiritual, how God will create lessons through people. But the same things will show up. Like if you don't get the lesson with Paul, Peter going to show up in your life. It's going to be like the same person, the same lesson until you get it and you graduate from it. So the fact that you're saying like, it was the same type of relationship showing up in 4 different ways. Like, what's going on? What's the lesson? Okay, I'm sorry. Keep going. What happened? What happened?
So I come into the program. It is my first question that I get to pitch because I am that kind of person, just by the way. I go to therapy like, you're giving me homework. What do I need to do? By the time I come next time, what are we doing? So I put my question in coaching to talk. It was a long question, too. It was like a 3-page question.
That was good.
Like. But basically, I received this, what we call a gorilla client. So it was the largest client in my business. And I would probably say it's like what fed the baby, right? Like it was the thing that was the underlying, but it was taking up so much time that I could not grow my business. So I proposed this question already knowing the answer, but I didn't know the how. And what Liz and the team gave me, and it was her first time giving me feedback, and I think it was like, well, either you gonna like me or you not. And she actually said those words. And she gave it to me straight, no chaser. And I was like, okay. And the point is, what I needed to do was I had to release that relationship so I could grow. And the business could grow, but I was a lot of the business at the time. So for me to grow, and I did it, and I haven't looked back. And I will have to say, because I'm all about getting my value, doing that was like the program. So if I didn't do anything else in the program, the value of the program was met in that one action.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for doing it. We were talking about you yesterday, and I said that I was like, man, it was like one of my first interactions, and I was like, oh man, because I'm gonna be honest, but I'm like, I don't think she's going to like my answer, and furthermore, I don't know if she'll even do what I'm saying. Because I was just getting to know you, and I was like, man, I told her to do something difficult. Is she going to do it? And you had my utmost respect, because when you came back the next week and you were like, all right, so I did it. And I was like, oh, word. Okay, she's not playing. It's not a game. All right, cool. Let's go. Game on. Like, she's down. And okay, so you released this one, and we are skipping over just... If you all don't know, we talk about guerrilla clients in our program, and a guerrilla client is a client that's yielding 35% or more of your annual revenue. And the statistics for small businesses is that most small businesses, when they lose a guerrilla client, they don't survive. So the challenge when we talk about women, landing corporate clients, not only is it about like, because people glamorize, like I landed like this 6-7 figure corporate client, but if one client is yielding 35% more of your revenue, that's like a glorified job, because the risk is if I lose this one account, can my business sustain itself, right? And so for you to have a guerrilla client, and because of the complexities of it, for the answer to be, you kind of need to get rid of this client, that's scary, right? Because it's like, all right, if I get rid of this one client, how am I going to survive as a business? So do you want to talk more about, you release this client and then, well, actually, before we skip over, because we're talking about life happening and emotions, can you talk about the emotions of realizing I need to have this conversation? You already frowning.
Yeah. Well, we cried. Both of us cried when it happened, and I knew that it needed to happen. But going back to even nutritious people, we were in agreement. I remember that. And she said she was proud of me. So, and I didn't just say tomorrow. We gave a plan. We built a team. It was a transition plan for it to happen. So I feel honored that we were able to come to that place and have that difficult conversation and still say, I love you and I want to see your business be successful. But for my business to be successful, at this time and in my life, I have to choose myself. And I will share this because we're talking about lifing. One of the major things that made me have to do it is I was going to be divorced. So a lot of the time I was given, my whole life shifted. So that time I was given, I could no longer give at that level. Like I literally could not do it. And something you had said to me, it was like, and you betray yourself. Yeah. You honor the other person, you betray yourself. And that was the theme. And you say the lesson over all the relationships. That is what I have been doing. And then I want to say this, TD Jakes has been feeding my soul as well during this season. But this morning, before I came to this session, I was listening to one of the snippets and it was like, to shed old things, the grape is becoming wine.
Oof.
And
crushed and pressed.
Crushed.
Stomped on.
But to become wine, you're not thinking about how to go back and be a grape. You can't. Yeah. So this program where I'm trying to move in my life, I'm trying to be wine.
That decision I know is not easy though. That decision is so real. Okay. I applaud your courage to do that. You have the conversation, you cry with this client. Do you have moments where you're like, where in the hell is my money coming from?
Oh, no, because I'm a spiritual person. As soon as that moved out of the way, it was immediately replaced. It was. Literally.
I remember it.
The number I wanted.
Yes.
You got to tell them the story because you're skipping over stuff. You they don't understand. So you release the client, you cry with the client, and then what happens?
well, I'm in the field. I'm doing the program. I do, leads. And I get a phone call from another relationship that I have that pitches a program, services that I do, my art business. And it's literally the amount. And it carries me for like 6 months. Or it's like so it literally begins the month before the one, because I set up time for training. So it literally replaced it, but less work and less time. So it was the kind of client that I needed.
Yeah.
And then I was able to spend that other time growing my business and doing the program and doing the things. And I do feel very confident because I really didn't have time to do the program.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I made this investment. This client is sapping up all my time. I love it. I love it. Anything as we wrap up, I mean, talking about the program, emotions in life, any other like best practices for how you, because I'm wondering, like, if I'm gonna keep it a buck, like, first of all, I'm telling all my business. Okay. I'm like, okay, we gonna say it. I just like editing myself. So there's certain things, like there's a certain point in the month, I ain't gonna say when, mind your business. It's a certain point in the month where I know I'm gonna need a day or two every month so I can just deal with my pain and I don't want to be bothered. Right? Like, and I give myself grace in the business, and my team knows those couple days in the month, and they know Liz is not available. Or if you have to talk to Liz, she's going to be in a hoodie in the bed on Zoom with a blurry camera. Like, so I know that those days are coming each month, but I also have days where for whatever reason, I just am not available to people. And I just know, and there's days where I feel excruciating emotional pain, or days that I have extreme anxiety. And I know for me, it could be many different things. Like, I know water calms me. So sometimes I have to go, be by water, or there are times that I have to praise it out. Like, I'm someone, like, my family knows. It's like, we woke up and all the gospel, like, all the gospel is blaring on the house. You know what I mean? Or I'm shouting, or I'm like, I'm someone who's very fluid. So it's like either I'm dancing, or I'm shouting, or I'm crying and I'm journaling, or I'm doing things that edify me. My parents live close to me. Sometimes it's like, I just want to go sit at my parents' feet and just like, yield their wisdom, or like, but I just have certain things that I have to do to maintain my sanity and give myself grace when the times are the hardest. And I'd love to hear from both Cheryl and Ashely, like, when times are at their hardest or life is happening in the business, what are some best practices for what you do to just get through the season?
First is faith. For me, like, I always know things could be a lot better, but they also could be a lot worse. I know where I come from. I know the struggle that I went through. I know I'm very blessed, just like, highly favored. So that's one. And then I come from an entrepreneur father, and his philosophy was always celebrate life every day. And so I would have to say those are my two things. Like, I celebrate the challenges. I celebrate the wins. I just celebrate the being. It's just, we're here, but there's the chance that we're even here is something crazy. I don't know, something like 1,000,000,000,001 or something. So that's, for me, those are my two.
I love that. What about you?
So in my program, we talk about a wellness kit. So what you basically described is what I call a wellness kit. So what's in my wellness kit is every morning, wake up, have a little routine, but it starts with being grateful. And that's my prayer, meditation, what you want to call. So if I don't do anything every day, I do one thing from my wellness kit. So we're going to have that. So it might be some gospel, nice long showers with the little incense and the little smells going on. And I do love water. That's the one thing about living in Atlanta, but good thing I travel a lot. So I love being by the ocean or going to a lake. And my friends know to also tell me, well, you need to go to the water. I know what that means. I mean to go somewhere. So you need to go somewhere. And also just rest, like sleep. Let's say sleep, because my friends will say that I don't rest well, but actually getting a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
Every night. So those are some things in my wellness kit. So doing a thing in my wellness kit, and then I clear Mondays and Fridays and mark my calendar that says self-care. Like, I literally have prayer meditation on my calendar, and I have self-care day monthly on my calendar and therapy monthly. So I calendar those things in, and we have a team. We need that wellness team That's part of it. So I don't want it to be when it's in crisis. It's there all the time. So that, okay, I need an extra session. I need a longer, time at the lake. So that's how I feel like I just increase the amount of wellness I need.
Crank it up.
To turn up the wellness this week. And then I'll tap those folks and say, can you do this meeting?
Yeah.
Can I just point out that most of what we're talking about is really about being a better human?
It is.
So if you're a better human, you can be better at what you have to offer. You make better decisions, all the things. Yeah, I love the wellness kit.
I agree. Any final words as we wrap up?
Thank you so much. I appreciate y'all. I have like 80 days in the program, y'all, or something like that. I'm counting down.
She said 80 days.
Something like that.
But then she's running the alumni chapter. We already had this agreement.
Okay, yes, that's me. You can have my spot after me. It's a 2-year term, everyone.
Oh, wait a second. Oh.
Okay, so stay over there.
She said I'm going to use this podcast to get all my terms and conditions. I love it. I'm so excited. It literally has been such a joy and honor to know you, to work with you. Listen, she said 80 days. Y'all stay tuned. Stay tuned. We're going to see how long she's going to be in this program. But it's such a joy and honor. And if you've been watching this and you find value in these behind the scenes corporate conversations that really speak to the duality of being the woman, becoming the woman that you aspire to be, and also growing your acumen and situational knowledge so that you're confident and have the tools to lead conversations with executive buyers, then make sure that you subscribe on YouTube so that you don't miss an episode. You can also listen on all your favorite streaming podcast platforms. Until next time, thank you again to Cheryl Parks and Ashley Walden Davis. It's been a joy. We'll see you on the next episode. Bye.